All right. Good morning, everyone. So the foundation of this is the effective communication presentation I did last year. I have modified it just a bit and called it the pandemic version, mostly just to emphasize the challenges that we all face now with effective communication when we're all not together and have way too many emails and things going on. So if you've seen this before, it's a great refresher. Um, if you haven't seen it, then welcome. And it's a topic I'm pretty passionate about. So pay good attention, take some notes, and I hope to see everyone utilizing a few things that they learned today. And please stop me at any moment if you have questions or comments, or if John Turton has any good stories, or anyone has any good stories about examples of communication gone wrong.
Not right now. I don't have any news stories. However, will you be sending out the deck to us?
Absolutely.
You're wonderful.
That doesn't mean you don't pay attention, though.
Absolutely. I will be riveted.
All right. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk some about the best medium for communication, which I think this is one of the most important things right now to make sure you're having effective and clear communication with the people you're trying to do that with. That flows into identifying your target audience, making sure you're getting to the main point of your communication, how you can use some visual organization to help you with that. And then I'm going to go into more tips on using work chat and a few things on WebEx to support our work from home fun. So a good portion of this was adapted from a training that Dr. Bill Walsh gave many years ago at then White Wave. So if you want to learn more about him or see more about what he does, there's a link in the PowerPoint. So this slide here is one of the most important things I think that we need to keep in mind right now of how am I most effectively going to communicate with the people I need to communicate with. If I send an email that's urgent, is someone going to see that in the next hour? If I send a work chat, will they maybe see it sooner? Do I just need to pick up the phone and call somebody? Or maybe I need to schedule a 15-minute WebEx. If you've typed an email and it's 2 paragraphs long, maybe you need to call someone or schedule some time with them just to make sure that what you're trying to say comes across and you don't end up back and forth with a bunch of emails confusing the whole topic after that. So thinking about who needs the communication and how should they receive it. Personally, I think work chat's one of the quickest, easiest, fastest, cleanest ways for us to be communicating right now, particularly when we have questions, it's urgent, or a group chat maybe with 3 or 4 people. You don't have a bunch of emails to sift through. So I'll have lots of more tips about utilizing work chat at the end. With email, making sure you're utilizing your subject line for your main point, keeping your message in a concise format, being mindful of not overusing the urgent flag, and then because we can't just walk over to someone's desk, just not forgetting that we still have phones and WebEx, and if an email's gone back and forth 10 times, probably a good time to get on a call and check in on the final resolution of that topic. And two, if it's a sensitive topic or complicated or just generally confusing, written communication can be a challenge. So then identifying and targeting your audience in an email. I think it's important to utilize the CC and the BCC fields. So people in the to field are people that need to be actioning something or need to give attention to your message. If you're CCing someone, it's informing them of your message, but they don't necessarily need to take action. And then just being real careful with the BCC, because that person can reply to all and they might not know why they're being BCC'd. Using the mention functionality is also a good way to draw attention to recipients or request an action for someone. So you just put the little @ sign and their name. This will move them or add them to the recipients. But it's also important to be clear as to why you've added them, and you don't expect them to read the whole email to try to figure out why you've added them. You can then filter on your mentioned mail, and you'll need to make sure that you have that field in your Outlook view. Any questions on the mention functionality?
It's funny because I never knew what that was for, why people did that. Because I always assume that if you put the person in the to field, that means that was for them to action something, and that's why you put them in the to. And then I started seeing these @ and things. I'm like, what? Why are they doing that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so as a recipient, it's quite helpful when you're especially overloaded with too many emails.
Hey, Amy, sorry, can you go back one slide on the I had another question on the chat. So I don't use work chat that often, but when I do, I don't know when I get a work chat. How do I know? Sometimes I'll get an email that says, "Hey, you got a work chat," but then other times when I'm in the middle of like a work chat message, I don't know when I get a response. So like Don, I'll use an example for today.
Yep.
Don and I were kind of going back and forth, and I sent him something, and then he sent me back, but I never got anything saying that he responded. So I just saw his message just now, and I think he sent something, like an hour
I've got
ago.
a handful of slides towards the end, and if that doesn't help, we can go over it more. But yeah, there's quite a few settings to make sure that the chat app is running and active and alerting you.
Okay.
So great question. And wait for it. It's coming.
All right.
Okay, so more on targeting your audience, really thinking about who your audience is and making it relevant, being careful about abbreviations, particularly when we speak internally in supply chain versus speaking externally to customers or carriers. We might be using acronyms that don't mean the same thing to everyone. And so being mindful of maybe not using too many acronyms. And then obviously checking vocabulary, grammar, and spelling, and utilizing your Outlook settings to help you with that. Another thing to watch out for is just being mindful of reply all emails. I see a lot of emails where the conversation sort of takes a turn, and maybe half the people that were on the email to start don't need to necessarily be on there anymore. If your manager's on there, they might be a stakeholder and need to know what's going to end up happening. But it's something to think about before you just hit reply all and send. And I know it's hard when we don't know everyone and what they do, but to sort of think about that and navigate through that as you are more aware of who is on the email and what your topic is. And so often I'll just forward an email to someone versus throwing them on as a CC so that they don't get tangled up in an ongoing discussion. Generally, I find the subject of the email is completely irrelevant to what my message might be to send to them. So updating that subject line to make it most relevant for them, and then just being super mindful about what's in the email, taking out anything irrelevant. Maybe there's sensitive or confidential information, and then explaining why you're sending it to them. And then just remember that all messages you send could be forwarded on to anyone. And so then really,
I was just going to make fun of John real quick. You don't
yeah,
have a story about that?
come on, John, tell your story. Not everyone's heard it.
I don't want to tell the story. I'm embarrassed.
Oh, John, can I tell the story?
You may certainly tell the story.
Okay. So this one time, John,
Somebody, not me, somebody.
This one time, somebody sent an email because the customer, their order was on credit hold, and in the email, the typing went that the customer was on the naughty list, and that was sent to the salesperson, and yada yada yada. It ended up with the customer, and the customer was not happy that they were assigned to the naughty list. Does that sound about right, John?
And the embarrassment and the red face is still on my body.
Shoot.
And
but it's a great story.
And the sweat. It was amazing. It was unbelievable. And the pause. There must have been like a 4-minute pause while I just sat there and
Thank you, John.
Hey, Amy, I have one that can probably top John's embarrassment if you have a second.
Yes.
This was a very, very long time ago when I was probably 23. At my last job, one of our customers was Cisco, the food service distribution company, and they had a subsidiary in Florida that would send ocean containers to the Pizza Huts in South America and Latin America. And so they would put in their orders, and I had to put them in by hand. And they kept asking about this one particular order. And I was trying to forward the message to my colleague, and I said, "Oh my gosh, they are so annoying. They will not leave me alone with these requests." And I did not forward it I replied to the customer and said that to the customer. And so, yes, I spent the next 30 seconds trying to figure out how to recall that message. And I didn't, but luckily I recovered and I wrote back and I was like, "Oh, that sounded like I was saying you're so annoying. I really meant our supply chain or our demand planning team is so annoying because they won't just tell me when we can have your product ready." So I think I recovered pretty well, but from that moment on, I definitely check and recheck who I'm responding to for fear that I'm going to say something bad to a customer. Also, I don't type messages like that in email anymore.
Yes.
That would be a phone call if I'm trying to vent about somebody rather than put it in writing. So that was a lesson I learned in my early 20s, and it was so embarrassing.
Good example. Thank you.
And that is your takeaway, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. Just from this point forth, every email that you send should be professional. And sometimes you think that, you're a little bit funny or a little bit squirrely, but the important thing to take away from our examples is to make sure that you keep your emails professional all the time. It's just safer that way. Love and kisses.
Karma will get you.
Thank you for sharing. Is this where I was? Yes. Main point communication. So really having careful decisions about what you want put in your email without having too many words, and put it in your subject line. Really write with a purpose and select some key data potentially to support your point. And then once you've typed a bunch of words, find a sentence, one sentence that you could, if you could only keep that one sentence, and then start with it to really draw attention to why is the recipient receiving this communication. And then, are you requesting information? Are you providing a summary or a recommendation? Like, what is the purpose? What should the person be getting out of what you're trying to say? And then really, again, thinking about the subject line and making it relevant and meaningful. Maybe summarizing the thread in your own words and deleting any complicated text. Using your best judgment around maintaining a conversation history. For sure, there are times when it doesn't make sense to change your subject so that you don't break the conversation, but just being thoughtful, particularly, again, if you're forwarding that email on. And then, using some action words to draw attention to why the recipient is receiving that email. Action required, response requested, update needed, FYI. It helps prioritize for them what they need to be looking at. And then things to avoid, you want to have a clear subject line, but don't type your whole email in it. Also, don't make too short of subject lines like question. Why don't you just type the question there? And then if you do find yourself wanting to modify the subject, you might keep the beginning of it so that at least if you're sorted by subject, it's keeping the thread at least in a general proximity. And then a little bit about visual organization. So, thinking about the presentation of what you're trying to say. Don't have a big, huge, long run-on paragraph. Use some bullets. Keep your first paragraph short, and just start with some short topics and sentences. Often if I see a big wall of words, I'm just kind of zoned out and on to the next thing. If I can see a few bullets that are drawing my attention to something, then I'm more likely to go right to that and see what I need to see. So here's an example of a big wall of words. The subjects have a good shift tonight. Lots of words, lots of words, lots of words, no bullets. But the main point of this email is that the team leader needed to add a new ingredient that night, but they didn't because they missed it. This is a different email where the subject was called out the main point to don't change the oven temperature settings. It had very specific bullets for about the temperature, production sheets, and call with questions. So I would, sometimes I'll type an email and then go back, take out extra words I don't need, reorganize some things, put some bullets, and it's much easier for the recipients to navigate your communication. Okay, before we move on to work chat, any other comments, questions, stories? Okay.
You can actually use your subject line and put EOM for end of message, and then they don't even have to open it.
Yes, and then if anyone wants to reply to that and type words, they better be deleting the EOM. That's all I have to say about that one, because I see that too.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And don't get confused if it's end of month.
Good point.
Okay, so workplace chat app. This is a bit of a personal request for me as well, that this is my preferred method of communication. So help yourself and your colleagues by utilizing the Workplace Chat app. It should be on your computer. Some people use it on their phones as well, but I find it the most efficient, effective way to communicate while we're all remote and help minimize that email flood. So a few things within the app to make sure that you're seeing it is to have it set to run on start. So if you restart your computer, have to shut down, it'll automatically be running in the background. It's also great to use for calls. I would say you should definitely warn the person that you're trying to call them so they're ready. I often have my headphones plugged into my computer, but they're not in my ears, so I might not see or hear that somebody's trying to call me. So a quick work chat, they can say, do you have time for a call? And I can say, yep, and then we can talk. There's also more settings to make sure you're getting notifications. So within the settings icon, the little gear icon, you can go to settings, and then also having the active status set to show when you're active. That helps people know that you're on Workplace Chat. You're probably going to see their message, how many minutes or hours ago it was since you've been there. If this isn't set, you can't see their last activity, and it's always sort of a 50-50 if they're going to be there. And so I usually start with a hello question mark before I start typing more words that they won't see. You can also enable the sounds that can be helpful to alert you when there's a message.
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
Question. So a lot of the times when I try to call different people on Workplace Chat, because to me that's super convenient. They are not able to like answer the call. They can see somebody's calling, but they're not able. Like it just doesn't work. I don't know if it's a setting.
So I think I had that happen. The other day for about 4 or 5 days. Everyone that would call me, it wouldn't connect. So I kind of think it was a workplace issue. It seemed to have resolved itself, but I don't think it's a setting. I'll check around. I think it might have been an issue that day, but if it seems to still be an issue, then there might be something not set up.
I'll let you know if it happens in the near future. I'll keep trying. I actually gave up because this happens so often, and then I have to like take the person's phone number, store it on my phone, and call them that way, the old-fashioned way. One thing that I don't know if you're going to talk about that I use a lot, that whenever I send to people, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know this existed," is voice messages on Workplace Chat. I'm not sure you're going to talk about.
I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay.
I'm not familiar.
Okay. It's super useful to me, so I wanted to bring it up.
At the end, maybe. Or do you want to talk about it right now, or give any tips?
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's simply just hitting the microphone icon there on Workplace Chat. It works on my phone. It doesn't work on my desktop.
Oh, so it's probably a phone. I see.
Super helpful to me. Helps me. It saves me a lot of time.
And then just a few more things about sort of personalizing Workplace and the chat app. So having your profile picture updated within Workplace, then that feeds over to the chat app. You can also put a little icon, which is kind of fun, or helpful if you're going to be on FTO. You can update your icon to show a palm tree or a peace out, or somebody doing yoga or somebody skiing, and then you can put some words about when you'll be back. If I'm going to be out for more than just a day, I'll update my profile picture with an out of office picture, and then it's easier for people to see right away before they start typing anything to me that I'm out. Again, all of these things happen in the website, so you just navigate to the website using the little icon within the chat app. And so back to the topic of the call thing not working. I know in many aspects of all of our technology, we sort of assume someone else is handling something, or it'll be fixed soon, or it'll never be fixed. And so we maybe often don't call the help desk or open a ticket. But for sure, if you're having issues with workplace in some form or fashion, I would encourage you to have the help desk take a look. You might need your version updated, or there might be something else broke. But there are two things I've found if it is behaving strange, or maybe it gets stuck loading. One is just to reload every now and then. I think it does this on its own when it gets tired in the later part of the day. And then also a reset where you log out and then log back in. So those are two troubleshooting steps you can do if you're having some issues. Okay, anything else on workplace? Ron, do you think some of this might help with yours?
Yeah, but so I get my WebEx is through Microsoft Edge. Is that where everybody's WebEx comes through? Is Microsoft
You
Edge?
mean workplace?
I mean workplace. Yeah, sorry, not WebEx.
Yeah, so it sounds like you don't have the desktop app maybe on your computer. So after this, let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay. I did actually used to have a slide in here about that, but the steps didn't seem to be behaving the same way, and most people I find have it on their computers. So we'll take a look.
Okay.
There's a train coming. Wrong. Oh, wait. I was going to say, I can mute you, which is in my next tips on using WebEx. So as a host, there's a few steps that you can take to help, I would say, have an effective, controlled meeting. So within the participant menu, you can choose to mute everyone on entry, and that way there's not a lot of randomness maybe as people are joining. And then you can also uncheck that entry and exit tone so you don't get all the beeps as people join and as they leave. And then you can also mute everyone or unmute them. So a few helpful tips just to try to control your WebEx calls. This was a slide I put together for one of our technology tips about joining your audio if you're calling in from a phone, and that way it doesn't show as a call-in user in the list, and people they don't have to guess who is call-in user 32, and it's just easier for everyone to see who's on the call and who might be talking. So in the icons of the participants, if you don't see an icon of a computer or a phone, that person isn't connected to sound yet. And you can see that as people are joining often and people start talking to somebody, and you can see if they can't hear you because they have no sound, unless they're a call-in user and they haven't joined their call with their user, which is an option. So when you connect the WebEx and you choose that you're going to call in, along with the access code for the meeting, it's going to give you an attendee ID. And so on your phone, when you've called in, you put in that attendee ID, and then it will join your call-in user with your WebEx person that you've clicked in as. And one important note is to make sure you're not muted within your computer login. Otherwise, you won't be able to talk. You'll need to use your mute and unmute on your phone. And then just a few more things. I think we've all seen the emojis, but it's kind of a fun way to interact with everyone without everyone trying to talk at once, and just making the collaboration a little bit more fun. And then just a few notes under the audio and video settings. Here's where you, if you're in the middle of a call, you can switch between your computer or your phone audio. And then having your space bar is set to mute or unmute is sort of a good shortcut to have, so you don't have to search for the button if you want to talk or mute yourself. And then this is also where you can change your virtual background if you want to set something different. I think we've had a few technical difficulties with that. I'm not sure if those have been resolved, but another option there. And I think the last slide here is just a few more shortcuts on being able to mute everyone or unmute. This is at the bottom of your participant list. And then, I switched my pictures with my words. And then utilizing the chat. So it's hard with 33 people on a call if people want to talk and we're talking over each other, that sometimes the best way to say something is within the chat. You can also choose just one person, but I would be mindful again of who are you, what are you saying and who are you saying it to. So yeah, I think that's the end. Anyone else have any questions or good stories?
Amy, Lance here. I got one tip. I got caught out on a call and I was muted on my computer and tried to unmute from my phone, but couldn't figure it out. And I learned that *6 will unmute you if you're just need to unmute yourself from your phone.
Great tip. Actually, I think that's in these notes here. Yes. So y'all can reference that when I send this out after I fix this last slide.
Sorry, I missed that, Amy.
So the slide on hosting and managing audio has the tip of any participant can unmute their line by dialing the *6. So you guys can reference that in the slides when I send them out.
Amy, I may have missed this when you were going through. Did you cover when you're replying to a email, don't have it say RE, 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 and just reply like 50 times?
I did not have that. I remember I had this as an example last time and I couldn't find the document. I had that all in. So I would say that goes under the mindfulness of your subject. But yeah, I've seen, and I think it's with particular outside email platforms maybe, where it's not recognizing the RE as a reply and it's adding it like every time the emails go back and forth. So again, that's a good thing to be mindful with your subject. And I'll look harder for that and maybe send that out of the things not to do.
I was going to say the other thing, and when you reply or reply to all, if you have an attachment, that attachment doesn't go
Yes.
with the reply. When you reply all, you have to forward and then put everybody's name in there if you want to add them back.
Or you can hit reply all and like drag it over, but I see that a lot where emails are sent and it's important, relevant information that got lost when the attachment didn't stay attached. Anyone else? John, does Alexa have a joke?
Wonderful work, Amy, as
Thanks,
always.
John.
Delightful. If I knew how to do the clapping, I'd do it, but I'm just learning.
You
The
can
little
do
clap,
it.
the little clap emoji that I'm seeing everybody use, but there's one from Mari. Oh, look at them all. Oh, geez. Okay, great job,
It's in the
Amy.
PowerPoint. You'll find it. I'll look for it next time.
You bet.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and go forth and communicate effectively and efficiently.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Good
Thanks,
job.
Amy.
Thank you.